All right, let's, is there any questions on what's on the board, by the way? All right, there's a bunch of exercises, and I'll just start them for you that I thought might be interesting to look at, because they all build one from the other. So, for example, exercise 1, 2, and 3 all build off each other. So you're going to have something like this on your final exam. I'm going to have you do a master budget on your final exam. But there's no questions about what's up on the board, right? So what you do is you start with your sales budget, right? And so if you look at exercise 1, this is Cornerstone exercise 1. And this is much more than you'd have to do on any exam, I'll tell you right now, because there's too much here, right? It'll probably be much easier than that. What they tell you is Flash Kick Company manufactures sells soccer balls for teams of children in elementary high school. The best-selling lines are practice balls, durable soccer balls for training, and match balls. So you're going to have practice balls and match balls. Right? So all you have to do, all the sales budget does, is you just multiply the units times the dollars. Right? So you have like January, February, March, etc. And so it has the units times the dollars. So it would be 50,000 times $8.75. And then February, it'll be 58 times $8.75. And 80 in March, $8.75. So I think you get the idea, right? Just multiplying all these out, right? And in April, it would be 100,000 times $8.75. So you can find your practice balls for these months, and they actually only wanted the first 3 months, but there's a reason why we've got April. So you multiply these out, and then you get your estimated sales in dollars. That's it, right? So multiply those out, and it comes to like 437.5, right? I think you get the idea, right? 437,500 because this is 50,000, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Right? That's it. That's all the sales budget is in this example. And so you do that for the practice, and then you'd also do the same thing for the match balls, right? For the other ones, we put January, and then February, and March. You'll see why they're giving us April in just a minute. So you got the units, which are 7,000, 7,500, 13,000, and 18,000. These are going to be times a little higher dollar amount, which is $16. This is how you would answer the sales budget. Right? That's pretty good. That's pretty much it. So it's what, 112,000? Oh, by the way, what they're asking for in this one is they're asking for the quarter. So ignore this at this point, which means you're going to be adding everything across, not only in units, but in dollars. Okay? So this will be here, and this, right, this will move here. Let me move April out of the way. Just keep in mind that April is up there, right? So your total will be 188,000, and then you have your total dollars will be given, right? And then the total for the quarter here, you just add those up. It's 14, so it's 27,500, and then your total dollars would go down here. So that's your sales. And you want it for the quarter. So you're having total units and in dollars. And then they add a third unit, so you go through the same thing, just add it. So pretty easy. However, the point of this is production budget. All right. Now, this is why you do this. The production budget, you notice, comes from the sales budget. Right? So, let's do the next one. Let's see the production budget. Production budget, you start out with estimated sales, right? Which is simply, what is the sales? It's what, 50,000? Right? So we're going to do January, right? And then February, and then March, right? So the estimated sales is 50, 58, 80,000. And then you want your desired ending inventory. Now, just for a second, I'll put April over here, right? And April, which I've since erased, but April was 100,000, right? In sales. What we're looking at is production. What they tell us in the problem, and this is not unusual, they tell you that, well, flash kick, look at exercise 8-1, requirement number 1. Flash kick requires ending inventory of 20% of next month's sales. So that's why you need that. So 20% of this is 11,600. 20% of this is 16,000. And this is why you need April. 20,000. That's your desired ending inventory. So your total production needs is 61,600, 74,000, and 100,000. Now, with that in mind, without looking at the book, could you figure out what the beginning inventory is? Because you're going to have to subtract beginning inventory. What did they begin the period with? Because we'll do the easy part. What's the beginning inventory of February? Very good. Beginning inventory, 1,600. The beginning inventory for March. The ending inventory of February becomes the beginning here, so this is 16,000. What's the beginning inventory of January? 10? Why did you get 10? You're right. How'd you get 10? You multiply, because you multiply this by 20%. Very good. I don't know if they give this to you in the problem. No, they gave you some different number, which is interesting. But technically, if they didn't give it to you, you can figure it out. So we got to use the number they were given. But if you notice, another way you could have found the beginning inventory for all of these is just multiply the current month sales by 20%. This will give you ending or beginning inventory, right? Instead of going from here to here to here, just multiply this times 20%, this times 20%, this times 20%. But in this particular problem, they tell you beginning inventory in January is 3,100. So you're going to have to use that. But if you weren't told, the assumption could have been that it would have been 20% times this, right? So this is what, 50, 8,500 is your production requirements. This This is 62,400, and this is 84,000. This is how many you have to produce. Any questions on that? So you just run through that. So the sales budget, and then you could also do, for the other product, which is the match balls, you do the same thing. On the production budget, though, you get to your direct materials budget. And your direct materials budget is based on your production needs. So the starting point would be the production requirements, rather. So for January, 58,500. But the first thing you have to do is convert this to materials. And they tell you that for production requirements of practice match balls, each practice ball requires 0.7 square yards of poly vinyl chloride panels. So to convert this, you'd have to take this times 0.7. Right? I think that was. And so 0.7 is 40,950. But this is your direct material per practice ball. I'll put BP. So this is the direct materials based on your production requirements. And so this represents what? Square yards. So this represents square yards. All right. And to this, you would add your desired and the inventory. So I'll bet they'll tell you, and it always makes sense, that they're going to use some percentage of the following year month's needs. So they tell you it's 20%. So you're going to have to figure out February. So February's production requirements was 62,400 times 0.7. So 62 times 400 is 43,680. Multiply this times 20%. And that will give you your desired ending inventory. So that came to 8736. So this is 49,686 minus your beginning inventory. Right? So January, do they give us the beginning inventory for January? No, they don't. So what you'd have to do is take 20% of this, and hopefully you get the right answer. So, yeah, 8190. Right? Because this production requirements becomes December's, right, ending, which then comes this way. So you can just simply take 20% times this, and you get this, right? Everybody follow that? Hopefully. Use my eraser. All right? It's the same thing, right? You're going to take this and make it December's ending inventory, and then make this beginning, or just take 20%. So that comes to 4196. 41,496. Square yards. This is your direct material purchase requirements based on your sales. If you go all the way back, this started with sales, didn't it? You determine that you expect to sell 50,000 balls. Because of the 50,000, you're going to need to produce, based on your ending and beginning inventory, 58,500. And you produce 58,500, you're going to need 41,496 square yards of materials to make those balls. So everything sort of flows nicely there. And they also give you the bladder and the valve and the glue, but there's one each, and then so you do the same thing. You just run that through. And that's it for direct materials budget. Right? Any questions on that? So could you do something like this again? If you had some practice problems, and then we'll review next one. Any questions on budgeting? So I told you, there's not much to it. The cash budget is very straightforward. You just figure out what's your cash collections, subtract out your cash disbursements. For this class, we won't do much more than that. Chapter 16, I'm just going to use some quick little notes, and then I'll let you know. An overview. Cost, volume, profit, analysis. Because next week, and I don't want to make you too sad, is our last class.
Ask you one question.
Yeah, on this? Oh, great. Ask away.
How complex is this covered in the CPA exam? Or how complex
This
is
is
the
it.
problem?
You can do this. You can do, yeah, no problem with CPA. This is, there might be, yeah, that'll be it. Yeah, you'll be able to pass the CPA exam.
How about the CMA exam?
Same thing. Both those are professional exams, and what they're testing on is minimum competency. Isn't that interesting? CPA, CMA, CIA, CFA, CFP, all those professional exams test minimum competency to be a professional. Not that easy, as you probably heard. It was fun, though. I had a good time. And CPA exam, when I took it, you had to take it all. Now you can piecemeal it, which is great. 4 parts, schedule it when you want, you go into a testing center. It used to be, everyone had to go 3 days, same time. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All day Wednesday, or half a day Wednesday, full day Thursday, and full day Friday. You had to take it all. So it was pretty tough. I think I talked about it.
Did I bomb maybe?
No, that was the bar exam. Yeah, during the bar exam, that was more pressure. More people passed. But there's more pressure because you can't practice law if you don't pass the bar exam. So if you don't pass it, you just spend 3 years of your life, 4 years, or 5 years. And so when we handed that out, I told you, right? So we got up and ran out, started throwing up. And that was the bar exam.
Sodium pulpit and that's it.
I'm going to give you a little bit of notes on 16. Just a little. I know. But it's only 8:30. We're supposed to go to 10. Think about that for a minute. Right? I'll be forced to tell many more stories to keep you awake, or I come back after a break and everyone will be gone. You've all seen this, right? You've seen this graph that I've done before, where you put a line right across here and put like a dollar amount here, $1,000, right? And whether you make 100, 200, 300, the price is still the same. This is cost behavior. This is your total fixed cost. If you draw another line, it looks like this. It goes up in direct relationship to the activity. So the more you produce, the more it costs, right? So if we make this, say, $2 per unit, this would be $200 there. 2 times 100 units, 2 times 200 is 400, 2 times 300 is 600. This is your total variable cost, and it's $2 per unit. And if you add both of these, this is your total cost line, total cost. It's also called mixed cost. Right? So, based on these relationships, if you drew another line here, called a sales line, started here and crossed right about there. And this is your sales revenue line. And let's suppose your sales revenue is $6 per unit. So you're selling it for $6. You'll notice there's a point in which your total revenue crosses your total cost line. This is the break-even point. Break-even means no gain or loss. So in fact, if you went down here, you'd see this is 250 units. Then across over here, this would be what, $1,500. So the point at which it crosses and your sales revenue, your sales, total sales, equals your total cost is break even, which means you have neither a gain nor a loss. And if you look at this, anything above break-even point is profit, isn't it? Because your sales revenue is greater than your total cost. Anything below this is a loss. Right? That's break-even. That's called the graphical approach to break-even. Right? Now, what you can do is break this down. You say, well, you multiply sales price per unit and multiply times X, and X equals number of units sold, plus equal total cost, which would be total fixed cost plus total variable cost. Well, now the way I put this is your sales price per unit equals total fixed cost plus your variable cost per unit times units sold. This is called, what I just wrote on the board here, this is called the equation method of finding break-even. Remember, profit is going to be 0. It's called the equation method. So you have to